Hi there, cut off part two of Have No Other God But Me. So, as I was talking about, I was talking about when we, about the inside, and when we have that low self esteem, and when we've grown up in an environment that was unfavorable to us. So, God knows, God created us all in a beautiful way. But depending on the environment that we grew up in and what we were exposed to, some of us don't even know who we are. We don't even know who we are because of the environment that we grew up in. It didn't allow us to grow. It didn't allow us to see ourselves in the healthy way, in the pure way that God has made us because of what we had to face. It's unfortunate for many that had to grow up in certain environments or certain situations that really squeezed out the true identity of the individual. But that doesn't mean that that identity is gone. And that identity can be, I don't want to say retained because the identity is already there, but that identity could be, I want to say, revealed or brought forth by making God central in your life. By making God central in your life, submitting to Him, dying to self, He will allow Him to shed all the trauma and everything that has come, everything that has shaped you as a result of the environment that you have been in. God can take all of that away, bringing out your true self like a seed going into the ground and dying and then coming up and blossoming. So yes, with id or pride, but in the negative sense, in the low self-esteem, and seeing yourself in a negative light. And like I said, it too, it can breed disaster. It can breed manipulation in the most cunning of ways because of the shame, because of how the individual feels about themselves. The things like competition, and I just say that because, and also there is competition actually with the id too, or with the superego as well. Because with the superego, of course, it's inflated, so it thinks it's the best. So if someone comes along who challenges that, then of course super ego is not going to be impressed with that because the super ego is supposed to be the end all, that be all. So if the super ego sees someone who challenges who they believe they are, then they too can get into that whole kind of competition. So it's not just with the id or the put downs and everything like that. And it's not just, with the one who has a low self-esteem, pride, but on the low side, but also the one who has the overinflated impression of themselves. Like I said, I could go on. I can go on this topic. I think this one alone, making God ourselves, like making ourselves God, it's a big one. It's probably the biggest one. And interfering with us making God central. And God, He is the only God, and making Him the only God, and not making ourselves God over our lives. And not only God over our lives, but God over other people's lives. And there's another one in that too, because there are people out there, not everyone, there are people who make themselves gods of their lives, and then they try to make other people like servants. Like they want to be the god over everyone else's life. So they make themselves a god in and of themselves, and then they make themselves a god to be God over everyone else's life. So not only do they want the throne of God, but they want to be God over everyone's life. And they try, and they do this. There are people out there who do that. And that's another thing. That's a form of manipulation. To be God, they want the throne. They want it. They want to be God. They are God. They made themselves God. And then they're going to be God over everyone else. So their goal is to make everyone else their puppets. So, like I said, I could go on, but the bottom line is God is God. We are to have no other God but Him. And so this leads me into actually a great segue. This actually is a great segue for what I'm talking about right now. So it is leading me into the second thing that can interfere with making God our God, and that is making people your God. Allowing people to be your God. A lot of people like to think that they, and I said this, that they steer their own ship, that they're individualist, that no one tells them what to do or what to say, that they do what they want to do, they say what they want to say, and no one can influence them or tell them how to think. It's not true. A lot of people, they talk that talk, but when you come right down to it, a lot of people are not as individualist as they think they are. And they do allow people to be the God of their lives. And this is another way in which you are dethroning God from your throne, or the throne that he has, and you've placed an individual. And a lot of people have made people their God for various reasons. Some people, they do it for a job, for prestige, to be accepted into a group. Some people, they do it for low self-esteem. Some people do it because they don't want to be an outcast. They don't want to be looked down on. They don't want to be talked about. So they make people their God. And at the end of the day, these people can and probably will, depending on who you're making. Like I said, some people, they want to be God. They have a God complex. And so they have a God complex, and they are reaching out to individuals to have servants and people who are obedient to them and obey what they say. And they say, do this, do that, bow here, bow there, and they do it so that they can be in their presence, in their friendships. But then there are people who actually go out, individuals who go out, and they make people their God. So you have the person who has a God complex, who places themselves on the throne, and then is looking for subjects. But then you have the individuals who actually make other people their gods as a way to just kind of froze here for a second. But they make other people their gods as a way to compensate for whatever it is that they're going through. Like I said, it could be for a job, it could be for money, it could be there's a number of things. But they make other people their gods, And like when I talk about this, I'm thinking about the time when I'm thinking back into the Bible, thinking in the Old Testament, thinking when God, like through Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar, he used him for the destruction of Israel. And I'm thinking about, like how God, reached out to them and pleaded with them to, like to turn back to him, because they were making the Egyptians their God. They were making the Assyrians their God. Like they were going to everyone else for protection and for help. And God is like, you're not going to get protection for the Egyptians. You're not going to get protection for the Assyrians. Trust me, if you go there, I will bring the Egyptians down right along with you. If you go to the Assyrians, I will bring them down right along with you. You are not going to get help if you seek out these groups. The only way you will get help is if you seek me. And how they wouldn't listen. And so as a result of not listening, King Nebuchadnezzar, who God gave so much power, tore down the fortified city of Jerusalem, and then first of Israel, and then Jerusalem, and captured, so many people and took them into exile in Babylon for 70 years. 70 years. As a result, because they relied on people as their God, instead of relying on God. And God pleaded and he pleaded. But as a result, they were defeated. Because people are not God. It doesn't matter what kind of authority or what kind of power they have here on earth. Ultimately, all power is in God's hands. And the power that people have here on earth, God has given them that power. But if God can take that power away from them. So if he can take it away from them, what security do you have? What security do we have in relying on somebody else to help us or to save us? Of course, God being the source, he provides us with resources. And resources come in the form of people. But God will provide those resources to us by us making him the source. But when we make people the source, there is no permanent guarantee that those people are going to remain the source, because they're only human, and human beings are fickle. So who they are today, they may not be tomorrow. We cannot depend on people to deliver us, to save us, to keep us. God is the only one who never changes, who is consistent always. He is the only one who does not change. He's the only one we can truly, truly depend on at all times. And I'm not saying that all people, because they're fickle, they're bad people. But things happen. Sometimes it's not even them being fickle. Sometimes situations happen which prevent them from being dependable. Things can happen, come up all of a sudden, and it prevents them from being 100% dependable. It has nothing to do. Some people, yes, they are fickle. They change. But then there are other people who know it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with life, and that, we're not perfect people, and that, situations and things happen. But when we place when we make people our God, for whatever reason, you know, things won't work out. And also, like some people, when they see that you have placed your dependence in them, they can make you a puppet. When they see that you are weak enough, gullible enough to place your dependence in them, they can make you into a puppet of theirs. Have you do whatever they want you to do. Have you dance the way you want, and, laugh when you want, and say what you want, say what they want you to say, and be who they want you to be. And what good is living like that? So, but when you why would someone even want that? Okay, so you don't want God controlling your life, who is holy, who never changes. He never changes. He loves you endlessly. He only wants what's good for you. He only wants what's good for us. And, you don't want him, or, him to control your life and die to self and be, submitted to him. But you want a human being who is equal to you. You want to submit your life to that person and be a puppet for them. I think it's better to be a puppet for God than to be a puppet for someone who is equal to you. I don't care if they have more money than you. I don't care if they have more fame than you. I don't care if they have more fortune than you. I don't care if they have more anything than you. They and you, we are all the same. We're all human. So why not just be a puppet to God and have life done right, than be a puppet to someone who is human like you? Like, why? I mean, at least you get peace at night. Peace and rest, peace of mind, peace. That can't feel good, being a puppet for people. Having people tell you what to say and how to manipulate you and tell you what you should do and what you should not do. Why would anyone want that? I mean, you can have, then for that reason, even more, you can be a puppet for God. Surrender your life to him. Die to yourself. You're dying to yourself for people who like you today and hate you tomorrow. Like you today, stab you in the back tomorrow. God's not going to do that with you. He won't do that. So people, God is always dependable. He's the one person you can depend on 100%. He's the only one you can depend on 100%. Be a puppet for God. So people, that's another way. Let's see here what I wrote about people. Did I write? No. I wrote something here. Okay, so yes. No. So that's another thing. Being people, that's another thing that can interfere with us making God our one and only. So another thing here is money. It is a big one. Making money our God. A lot of people do that. They find their security in money. And they find their security in money. They think that money can save them. And so money's a deadly one. It's a deadly one. Because if you make money your God, if you make it your God, Satan's got you. He knows he's got you. Because if someone is going to make money their God, they're willing to do anything to have money. They'll do anything for it. If money is your God, if God is not your God, and if money is your number one, then you're going to do anything in order to get money. And if you're going to do anything in order to get money, that's not a good thing. We need money to live. We do. We need money to live. But money is not number one. It's not the number one thing we need. We do need God. And God knows we need money in order to live in this world. He knows that. He understands that. But money won't sustain you. And you know what? You can lose money. People think when they're rich that they can't lose money. I mean, you look back at World War II and all the money that was lost. I'm trying to even think, yes, and what is it, the Great Depression in 1929? You know, a lot of people, they jumped out the window, they killed themselves. And it doesn't seem, you wouldn't think that money can be lost. God is God. God is God. And people who have money think that they're secure. And I'm not saying this with everyone who has money. I'm not saying that. But money does provide a certain sense of security. It provides a false sense of security and feeling that you're taken care of and nothing can touch you and no one can touch you and you're good. But there is God. And depending on the situation and depending on what's going on in the world and depending on you, so many variables, you could lose all that. And it gives a false security because you think that you can't lose it. And especially when you have a lot of it, you think that, okay, I can't lose this. There's no possible way that this could all leave me. I am in such a powerful high state that I could never fall down to the bottom. It gives a false security of where you are. And when you become reliant on it, when you think, okay, I have money, so I am safe. It's like, you know what, and I'm going to digress just for a second. It's like being on the top of a mountain and looking down and seeing a kind of like an ocean and a flood taking place and thinking that that water could never reach to the tip of the mountain that you're at because you were so high. And so you think that that can't reach up there. But God is the creator of the mountain and he's also the creator of the ocean. And when Noah's Ark was built and when the flood happened, it covered every mountain. Like I think the mountains were, I think it was like 100 feet below the ark. 100 feet below. Like these were mountains that were 100 feet. I don't know if I got my numbers right, but I think it's very close to that. 100 feet below where the ark was when it was floating, when the flood completely flooded, humanity and the earth. That's the power that God has. So money gives a false sense of security that make people feel untouchable, make people feel unreachable. So when you make money your God, you're basically, it's like in a sense saying you're God. I'm untouchable. I don't need God. I got money. And of course we know money, you can't. It doesn't heal. It doesn't give you love. It can give you false love, but it can't give you authentic love. There are things that money cannot buy. It can buy a false sense of love, but it can't buy true love. It can't buy true friendships. It can't buy true relationships. It cannot heal any kind of mental illnesses. It cannot heal any kind of emotional illnesses, any kind of traumas that have happened in the past. Money can't do that. In many cases, it makes some people worse. They get all that money and then they become a worse version of who they were when they had no money. So money is another thing that can interfere with making God central, making God number one and only. Money is a big one. So there's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with even being rich. There's nothing wrong with even being stinking rich. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of knowing that God is still central. God was the one who opened the way for you to have the money. And if you're not rich, it's not about going after riches. It's about making God central in your life, and God will provide the resources for you to live however He wants you to live. And if He wants you to be filthy rich, He'll have you filthy rich. But it's not about us, trying to reach for gold and reach for all of that. If God wants us to have it, it shouldn't be about going to God and saying, God, I want to be rich. I want $50 million. I want $100 million. I want $500 million. It shouldn't be about that. God knows we need money. We should be happy if we have $1 million. Should be happy if you're, that's good money. I'm not saying it's, what I mean. If you're making $1 million a year, it's a good amount of money to make, I think. Someone else may not think it, but I think it. Making $500,000 a year, that's a good amount of money to make. Make $200,000 a year, that's a good amount of money to make. Not everybody needs to be filthy rich. If God wants you to be rich, if you have $100 billion, and if you have on your account, and if you have 10 million, or if you have 5 million, or if you have 1 million, as long as you have God, that's the most important. It's not saying you could be more happy than that person who has 100 billion. So it's not about money. Not about, striving to become rich, become filthy rich. Trust me. I mean, not that I know, but, I don't believe that becoming filthy rich makes someone who was not happy. It gives them a sense of security. There's a certain security that takes place when you have money. And depending on the individual, it could create a false sense of security. So it's not about striving for money, it's about making God central in your life. And He will provide, and if He wants you to be rich, He'll make you rich. If He wants you to be filthy rich, but you want to be rich in God. You want to be rich with peace of mind. You want to be rich, mentally and physically and healthy. These are the most important things that money can't buy. And even rich people will tell you they prefer to have that over all the wealth. Okay, so money. So that is another one. And finally, what I'm going to get into here is platforms. Adulation from other people. Placing how other people look at you. Kind of like what I was talking about making yourself a god, so to speak, but to a lesser degree. I don't know if I want to say lesser degree, but it is different because making yourself God, it's kind of like an inflated ego there. That's an inflated ego, thinking that you are God, a God complex. It's kind of like an inflated ego and it's control. And I'm not saying that, maybe wanting the huge platform or the adulations of other people. I kind of think that's a manipulation too. But and that is kind of like stemming from the whole. It could be stemming from the whole insecurity part, the pride, not thinking enough of yourself. By wanting everyone to love you, everyone to look up to you and adore you. You're not wanting them to, you don't want to be their, you don't want to be their God, but in a sense, it's almost like that. You want them to look up at you in awe. You want that attention. You're hungering for that attention. You're craving for that attention, to be the center of all attention, for all eyes to be on you. You, in a sense, want to be God, because all eyes should be on God. The attention should all go to God. It's not about us. It really is not about us. It's not about us. We were created for God's glory. We were created as vessels for God's glory. God gets his glory through us. We benefit from it in whatever way he wants, in whatever way he chooses for us to benefit from it. But it is not about us getting accolades of attention and love and people looking at us and saying, oh, she's so wonderful. Oh, he's so smart and intelligent. It's not about that. It's about us being used as vessels for God's glory and helping to bring people into the kingdom, helping to get as many souls into the kingdom of heaven. And that interferes. And a lot of Christians are there with that. They want the glory. They want the huge platforms. They want the awe, the people who look at them in awe, and the whole adulation of, oh, that person's great. And it's not about us. It's about us being vessels for God, living for God, making God first. But when you want the adulations, when you want the attention, when you want to be popular, you have taken God off your throne and placed yourself there. You have not, God is not first. And so there are a lot of people who God wanted me to speak on this one, because that's where some Christians are, quite frankly. They want all the attention for themselves. They want people to love them, and there is a sense, there is a insecurity, wrapped up in that for some people. There is an insecurity and their need to feel validated. They're looking for validation through the platforms, through the awes, through all the attention of other people. They want the validation that they are enough. And I believe even if they get that validation, they still will not feel worthy of who God created them to be. Because that, again, is a false sense of feeling, of feeling good about yourself. You're not getting it from the true source, the only person that you can feel completely and totally at peace with yourself and content with who you are and with how God made you, is by having him on your throne and making him your number one. It is the only way. It is the only way where we can feel totally good about who we are as individuals, because he shows us who we are as individuals. He reveals to us who we are and how he created us when we make him number one. But if we're going for all these kind of stimulants of getting how we feel about ourselves through people aren't going to reveal. It's just masking. It's like putting a Band-Aid over a sore. Excuse me. Sorry. Oh my goodness, sorry. Just right. I'm so sorry. It just came over me right at once there. but it's just like a band-aid, just kind of masking the wound. It's not getting to the root of the validation that you're looking for in yourself. So looking for that that kind of attention from others through that kind of seeking. People say how great you are and how wonderful you are. If God thinks you're wonderful, that's good enough. It really is. If God thinks that you are wonderful, if He thinks that we are wonderful, that is enough. That is validation. We don't need validation from anyone else. And that's how you should be able to feel about yourself. And if you're not feeling that about yourself, like if you're not feeling that God's validation is enough validation, then you need to go back to God and speak to Him about that. If you feel that you need the applause and the cheers and the popularity from people, it's never really going to happen. And I mean, it could be that you want it for that. It could be that you want it for financial reasons. There is that. I'm sure there are people who are there. Could be, it could be for, career advancement. It could be a number of reasons. But then it's not for the right reasons. Because it should be God who determines what He has for you and where He wants you to be. And you're proving to Him that you can't trust you. Because you're making it about yourself. It's not about God. So, seeking validation from other people will remove God from your throne. So, I know there's more I could talk on this. I could really go into this. God gave me 4. I'm glad He gave me 4 because really and truly I could go on. I really could. I could have gone on with the first. I could even go on with these ones. I can really go on with them, but I do have to cut it short. The first one was close to an hour. But, so anyway, and I want to say this. I'm going to say that. So yes, that's all I have to say on the first commandment of the 10 Commandments. And so I will be speaking next week on the second commandment. And for now, I just want to say, if you are not a follower of Jesus Christ, I highly implore that you become one. It will be the best decision that you have ever made in your life. Give Him a year. I'm not saying give Him a year and give up, but really put your all into it. Confess your sins. Admit that Jesus Christ is your Lord and your God who died on the cross for your sins. He did. He's wonderful. Then, make a 180 on your life. Turn from the life that you are presently living. Excuse me. Turn from the life that you are presently living. And, that you're presently living and, live for Him. Live for Him and give Him a year. Allow Him to, give Him a year. Allow Him to do what He's going to do. Do things like read your Bible and pray. You do need to read your Bible. You do need to pray. Find a good church. Listen to sermons on YouTube. Find some, I'm at the library. So yes, give him a year of your life. Yeah, allow him to, there are steps that you have to take, but of course also you can't. There are steps that you have to take, like the ones that I mentioned. Find a good church. Go on YouTube. There's some good pastors on YouTube that you can listen to. Read up on things. read books, whatnot, as well. But make a commitment, and you can't change your life completely. There's a responsibility that we have to take, but there are things that we can't do on our own, and those are the things you're going to pray about. You're going to go to God about. Your weaknesses and think the things that you can't do on your own, and you're going to let him know that you need his help in order to overcome them and be better. But that's what the relationship is basically about being honest with God and allowing him to work in you. Don't expect perfection. He's not expecting you to come to him perfect. He wants you to come to him just the way you are, because that's what he's in the business of doing. He's in the business of making imperfect people better. And I don't want to say perfect, because I don't, but more perfect than where we start, better than where we started in our walk with him. So do give yourself, give that, make a really serious commitment, focus on him. It'll be the best decision that you've ever made. He really is a good God, and things may not always look, they may not always look the way you thought they should look. Having a walk with Jesus, people usually think that committing their lives to Jesus, everything's going to be wonderful. Like everything's going to be perfect, and you're not going to have any trials or tribulations. That is not the truth. But he will take care of you, and in the long run, things will be better for you. In the long run, it may not be in the beginning, but in the long run, it will be better for you. But you have to make that commitment totally and completely. And I'm sure you won't regret it after giving your life to him. And so that's basically all I have to say. And until next time, I look forward to you. Until next week, take care, and God bless. Bye-bye. Mwah.